Welcome to the show. I'm Jason Whitlock, and I'll tell you why I have no problem with Arizona coach Sean Miller returning to the sidelines tonight.
I'm Colin Cowherd, and I'll tell you how I finally convinced Whitlock that Stars are better off without Russell Westbrook. Speak for yourself starts now. I did do that.
You won.
Took a lot of
wrestling.
You
won.
I wish I was there for that.
All right. Yeah. Hello and welcome. We're joined today by Colin's co-host on The Herd, Christine Leahy, and the founder of the Big Lead, Jason McIntyre. Let's start with the biggest scandal in sports, college basketball, where University of Arizona basketball coach Sean Miller forcefully denied allegations that he had discussed a $100,000 payout to freshman star DeAndre Ayton. A conversation ESPN reports was captured on an FBI wiretap. Here's Miller today.
I have never knowingly violated NCAA rules while serving as head coach of this great program. I have never paid a recruiter, prospect, or their family or representative to come to Arizona. I never have and I never will. Let me be very, very clear. I have never discussed with Christian Dawkins paying DeAndre Ayton to attend the University of Arizona. In fact, I never even met or spoke to Christian Dawkins until after DeAndre publicly announced that he was coming to our school. Any reporting to the contrary is inaccurate, false, and defamatory. I have been completely open and transparent, and I look forward to coaching this outstanding team as we seek to capture a Pac-12 regular season championship this week. I now intend to turn my focus to basketball and our players and this team.
All right, after that denial, ESPN says they stand by their reporting on Miller and the FBI investigation. Cowherd, do you have an issue with Miller coaching tonight?
No, I mean, I just watched the Olympics with Russian athletes in the height of a doping scandal. Our president is under investigation for Russia. Roy Williams won an NCAA tournament under investigation, still at UNC. This is the way it works in sports. It's the way it works in government, politics, business. You can be accused, and you work through it. You make a strong denial. So it doesn't bother me. I will say this. Some of the reporting linked to anonymous sources, as you noted yesterday, has been flimsy and has been disputed and has been proven wrong. So I'm fine with him working through this under investigation.
Yeah, I'm really fine with this. The guy's certainly innocent until proven guilty. And, a leak story from an FBI source or from anybody, should be called into question. You can't let the state, the government, bully someone into a conviction without ever seeing any evidence in court. So I don't even like the whole fact that this has been leaked. And then I wonder, which I've never gotten a great explanation on, who is Christian Dawkins? And why would a head coach be so stupid as to be on a phone conversation with some young person who's a go-between or a runner or whatever he is, and why is his credibility unimpeachable? So I've got no problem with this. I wish Sean Miller and Arizona all the luck. I can't see them doing this foolishly, because now the school president's job is also in the firing line if this blows up in their face by allowing him to continue to coach. So I got no problem with this.
I have no problem with him coaching either. And innocent until proven guilty always works for me, unless you're putting someone in harm's way. And even if he did, let's say, pay someone $100,000, that's not physically hurting anyone or emotionally hurting anyone at that point. It's interesting to me how adamantly he's denying doing this, because there are tapes. So they could come out at some point. And if he's denying it this hard, it makes me think that he knows that there's nothing that would come out on the tapes. However, I also think about the FBI, and I think that this sounds like a guy who maybe got in trouble and is upset that Sean Miller didn't get in trouble, and so therefore he leaks it to ESPN and they put the article out. But then why didn't the FBI charge Sean Miller if they really did have this information on the tapes?
That's a good point.
It's very shaky, right? All of it, the whole report. We saw the Yahoo report was very detailed on the other players. Nobody suspended. Nobody's sitting out. At Arizona, you have Sean Miller in place now. He's a great coach. We know he struggled in the NCAA tournament, but this is definitely the right move. You have DeAndre Ayton, one of the best players in the country, could be the #1 overall pick in the draft. I mean, Arizona, like you said, taking a chance. The president's putting his neck on the line, but at the same time, they could win the title. That could be massive for the university, even if it's vacated. Remember a couple years ago, Louisville won the title? That's been vacated. The Fab Five. Does anybody here think the Fab Five did not exist because those 2 trips to the Final Four were vacated?
Okay, let me give you some denials, though. Because when somebody does have a strong denial, that generally, I'm like, oh, okay. Okay, now I'm going to give you tiers of it. John Gotti denied the whole time. Okay, Sean Miller's not a mobster. Baseball players, Rafael Palmeiro, denied the whole time. Okay, he didn't use steroids. Nick Saban denied he was taking that Alabama job. I have multiple tiers of incredibly strong denials from people who are now respected Hall of Fame baseball players. Nick Saban is the greatest college football coach probably ever. So strong denials work both ways. If I'm Sean Miller and I am on this tape, I may be crossing my fingers thinking, I have no choice but to strongly deny it.
Or if you listen really carefully to his wording, he might have said those denials in a way that even if something came out on the tapes, he's not technically lying.
Right.
Knowing that, hey, if the FBI really did have something on me, they would have charged me already. They haven't. They're probably not going to come out. So I'm going to technically work with a lawyer and get this to come out the right way.
Yes.
And what's telling to me, too, is Shaq's son, Sharif O'Neal, was supposed to go to Arizona, and now he's going to UCLA real quick.
What about the fact that Arizona, right, the story came out last Friday. 6 days have passed. Has the reporter tweeted anything from ESPN? Not a thing. His story's been challenged a lot online by several websites. Looking at the timeline, a lot of questions. The reporter's been silent. He has not challenged anything that's come out so far. If I'm Arizona, am I looking at this and saying, all right, what else do you guys have? What else do you have? It's been 6 days, nothing's come out, nothing from the FBI, nothing from the reporter. That's all they got. I think Miller's in the clear.
You were very suspicious of this story to begin with.
Because, again, and I don't want to beat up ESPN, this is a universal statement, but journalism just isn't what it used to be. We now throw things against the wall and see what sticks.
We also have major cuts at magazines. So it's often, I would say this, in your lifetime, isn't it more competitive? Yahoo breaks a story. I'm on the same beat. I've got to break the story. Things are rushed to press.
There's no question. Look, I know Mark Slayball, respect him as a sports writer, but, you know, people can get played. And again, when you start trying to, as a sports writer, you start having dealings with the FBI. That's not what you normally deal with. There are seasoned police reporters, government reporters that are used to dealing with FBI-type officials and maybe have a better radar for when they're being played. And so that's where I just think everybody needs to be very, very careful here. Again, I don't want to beat up ESPN too bad, but I've seen them make massive mistakes before. I've seen them do, even when things were good and things were healthy, what they did to Bernie Fine at Syracuse a few years ago was just journalism 101. It should have never happened. And so I've seen them be sloppy before, and now we're in this era of cutbacks. I think, again, when that school president, the athletic director, there's a lot of officials that Sean Miller has dragged into his denial and put some pressure on their job. And I think they feel like they have a relatively strong case. And so I don't need to be in a rush to run Sean Miller out of college basketball because, first of all, even if he did create or cheat the NCAA, I don't think he broke any kind of moral code. And so I don't need to be the first to run him out and vilify him. I wouldn't need to be the first to report that there was some alleged wiretap. I would have just pumped the brakes.
I really believe that most, if not all, competitive college basketball programs are cheating in one way or another. I also think it's telling that Sean Miller's assistant did get arrested in that whole scandal. And if you think about who has access to those FBI tapes and who can hear them, they're defendants, they're attorneys. So it sounds to me like someone was really upset that Sean Miller didn't get in trouble, went to ESPN, gave them that story. I'm sure that Mark wanted to hear about it, probably vetted it out a little bit. And then he did come out with one tweet and corrected the wording on it specifically, which makes me think he was backtracking a tiny bit, but had enough information to say, okay, Sean Miller did something, but I can't say it
You're
that
making
strongly.
an excellent point, too, though, because there probably is someone angry. Hey, I'm in trouble and this person's not. that doesn't make them an honest broker.
No,
no,
it doesn't.
That makes them an angry broker of information and perhaps a sloppy broker of information. There's, I've visited some family and friends in jail. There's more lies told in a jail than perhaps any place on the planet. So, I would take it all with a grain of salt.
There are, but I mean, in the last couple years, there was heat around Louisville. And now we find out there was trouble at Louisville. There's a lot of heat around Arizona. Is everything not true?
But don't you stick by you're guilty and you're the leader of that program. If there's something going on, it's because you're choosing not to see it.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's this deniability.
His assistant was arrested.
Rick Pitino's job is to know there's a brothel on campus. That's your job. Okay, this is not a 10,000, this is not...
Well, listen, I think if you really understand football or basketball or coaching and in the NCAA, some people's job is to make sure the coach doesn't know.
But I was saying,
to be that shield, to be that shield for the coach. That's their job.
Yeah, and that is Rick Pitino probably has that. Bobby Knight didn't have one of those. Bobby Knight didn't run his program.
I don't want to. I'm from Indiana. I worked in Bloomington. I get Bob Knight's rep. I know Jay Edwards, Lyndon Jones used to come up to Ball State. Again, as squeaky clean as you think Indiana was, it wasn't. And I've seen the Duke program. Everybody ignores it. The New Orleans Times-Picayune, about 10 years ago, did an exhaustive 10,000-word investigation exposing what was going on at Duke, how they had a system to get their players and get their players' families taken care of. Everybody ignores it because it's Coach K. He's got a great image, and let's pretend like that story wasn't written. And again, there was never a denial of that story. There was never anything refuting that story. We just chose to ignore it because we like Coach K.
K stands for a grant.
This is the Speak for Yourself podcast, and I'm Jason Whitlock. Before the show moves along, I wanted to tell you today's show is brought to you by Buffalo Wild Wings. It's that time again, that familiar crossroads of choosing between basketball and hockey. You can't choose, they're both on. Why are they both on? Relax, we have a solution. Buffalo Wild Wings. Rather than fill your living room with TVs, coming to B-dubs, we've got hockey and basketball on, each playing on dozens of screens so that you don't have to choose. And to complete the trifecta, we can ensure you have access to all the sports, foods you crave, from our selection of America's favorite wings and any of our 21 signature sauces and seasonings to shareable favorites like cheddar cheese curds and fried pickles. You'll have everything you've ever wanted. But wait, we also have a variety of beers to quench your thirst. All the basketball, all the hockey, all the food, and the beer you want. Buffalo Wild Wings, wings, beer, sports. Please drink responsibly. Now back to the show.
Joining us now, NBA champ Steven Jackson. Let's talk NBA, where James Harden destroyed Wesley Johnson's ankles last night en route to a win over the Clippers.
Overrated.
I know, that's what I thought.
Why?
Harden's Rockets have the NBA's best record, just ahead of Golden State, with Toronto in third. And all of these teams have one thing in common. Stars who used to play alongside Mr. Triple-Double himself, Russell Westbrook, whose own team currently struggling against bad teams, 7th seed in the West. Whitlock, is it fair to say it's an indictment on Westbrook that his former teammates, not just some of them, all of them are thriving?
Yeah, it's unfortunate that I have to admit that you were right. And this morning, I actually was looking on the internet and I was like, damn, Ibaka is in first place in the East, Durant, Harden, everybody's doing, and I said, there's some truth here to what Colin Cowherd has been saying. I got to admit it. It's a bad look. And, I mean, he's got Paul George. He's got Carmelo Anthony. Here's my biggest problem with Russell Westbrook, honest to goodness, at this point. I love Steven Adams. I think he has more potential than what he's being allowed to show and develop.
You loved him 2 years ago.
Yes. And his growth has been stunted by Russell Westbrook.
Listen, it's not just stars. It's marginal players. Okay, Reggie Jackson in Detroit, who struggled with Westbrook, they had words, is a better player significantly. Oladipo's now an all-star. Dion Waiters went from 10 points to 17. This is Enes Kanter.
Wow.
No, it's not just Durant and Harden. That gets all the attention. Marginal players leave him 10-point-a-game guys, and they become 17-point-a-game guys. Sabonis has doubled his numbers. Give me the player who left him and got worse. Give me one. Give me one. I'm giving you 9. Listen, if you're in a marriage and get divorced, and she's way happier, and the marriage is way stronger, it's on you. You can't just keep telling me, and I show you examples, and you go, well, everybody's better without him.
What, Reggie, you said Reggie Jackson. Yeah, if you coming off the bench, somebody starting in front of you, y'all gonna argue because you want his spot. That don't count. Harden, Durant, they gonna be good anywhere. Everybody else you name, how much of a factor are they on these?
Ibaka's a factor.
How much though?
Ibaka? We're talking
How much
about
though? How much
Serge
though?
He's an all-star.
Okay, hold on. You talking about DeRozan? When you talk about the team, who you talk about? DeRozan, Lowry. You don't talk about Ibaka. He's a role player.
Okay, Indiana.
Right? No, he's a big
winning?
He's a no.
It
He's
doesn't
winning,
matter.
but he is not the.
When Indiana
factor.
traded Paul George away, the narrative was Pacers got hosed. They're the 5th seed in the East. They're the surprise team in the league with 2 former Westbrook teammates.
But that doesn't have anything to do with Russ.
No.
Steven Adams having a great year. If he didn't
No,
have,
he's not.
If he
Not
didn't
what
have
he
Russ,
should be doing.
If
He
he didn't
has
have
hit
Russ, he
a
wouldn't get
ceiling.
So he's not a big man that you can drop the ball down to and get.
Yes, he is. If
He
they
is
would let him
not.
develop.
He loves Adams. He's
You're
loved him
gonna-
for 2
I
years.
love him too. I say he's the MVP of the team, but you can't drop it down to him and say get a bucket.
Yes, you can.
How many times a game?
I've
Once or twice.
Again, if he were allowed to develop, he would be further along
So you
offensively.
just
So we're
believe in
going to say
coincidences.
that we're going to say that James Harden's success is because he doesn't play with Russell Westbrook anymore. He was
crazy.
22 years old the last time he played with Westbrook. I hope he's better.
He was going
Okay.
to be good regardless.
Ask yourself this. So Chris Paul, who everybody was like, this ain't going to work with Harden. Ball-centric, need the ball, D'Antoni system. I mean, from Woj, people were like, Chris Paul, D'Antoni system's not great. It's been amazing instantly. Paul George, Melo go to Westbrook. They're struggling to beat garbage in this league.
That's a fair point, but I'd put then, good point, more of the blame goes on Billy Donovan than Russell Westbrook.
But if making it to the finals with Russ and not winning is bad, I'll take that. They went to the finals. KD and Russ, they went to the finals.
and the two of his
KD
best-
won an MVP when he was with Russ, didn't he? Yes, he won an MVP when he was with Russ.
Kevin Durant's numbers
You can't
are
just blame it on
significant.
Russ, though.
No, we're not blaming everything on Russ. We're saying
That's the question.
there's a history here that every great basketball player, at the end, Kobe wasn't elevating teammates. He wasn't. He was stifling teammates. Carmelo's record shows you teammates don't play well with
Okay,
him.
let me ask you, what do you think of Paul George this year? You think he took a step back?
I do.
He had to.
Well, had
Because he
to.
on a new team. Nobody goes on new.
KD's on a new team. He didn't take steps back.
He did.
The first year, yes, he did.
No, he did.
The
Yes,
first
he
year,
did.
He was the MVP of the finals.
Steph was the leader of the team.
Well, Steph has the ball in his hand. He's the quarterback of that team. He runs the culture
Okay,
of that team.
and- okay.
Whoa. Is Chris Paul on a new team?
Yes.
Yeah, it's Houston.
What has he won, though? What has he done?
No. Did he back up? Paul George has backed up. He does not look the same.
He's not.
I'm
He's
a
in the same
Pacer
position
fan.
with Chris Paul. They're in the same
No,
position.
Chris Paul is having a tremendous.
They both Batman and Robin. I mean, they're both Robin and Batman. They both playing the second fiddle. So it's the same
He's
thing
not
in NBA.
backing up. Paul George does not look the same.
He doesn't,
He's
and
less
neither does Kirk.
valuable today than he was when he was in Indiana.
In fact, I've had.
He just got playing with better players.
Listen,
There's less
Russell
shots.
Westbrook last month was dead last in the NBA. He shot 15% on threes. He was 7 for 40.
Slump.
He's still shooting 5 a night. He lacks us. Listen,
This
we
man
all
averaged
know that.
triple-double, man. That's hard. That's hard to do in the NBA.
Well,
I'm
no,
sorry.
it's not when you look at ball
sorry.
usage.
That's hard.
Westbrook has the ball constantly.
No, listen, I'm going to give him the triple-double. That's great. What about everything the flowers can't grow around him? That's what my point is. I'm
I
looking
don't
at
think
Paul
that's
George.
True. And you know why? So
They
I
said
went
it about
to
AI?
Huh?
Did they say that about AI?
Yeah, they did. And that's why he never won a title.
like
I don't think that's why he didn't win no
All-Star
title.
Saturday. You know who I saw sitting right in front of me? Serge Ibaka, James Harden, Russell Westbrook. They are still
great.
friends. And,
That's awesome.
And I understand that you can separate some stuff, what happens on the court, from your friendships, but I don't think they'd be that close.
No,
if they
I
really
do.
thought
Love
that
the
Westbrook
kid.
was that bad
By the way,
of a
I
teammate
like
and
my
didn't share the
ex-wife
ball.
better today than when I was married. Why?
He is a cancer, but I don't think that is. I don't think
No,
that's-
first of all, that doesn't. You were the one that reported, and I believe that you said
Durant and
Kevin
and
Durant and him were buddies. They
Not
hated
on
each
the
other
court.
on the
I
court.
can give you a great example of this. Honestly, you can call any of my former college teammates. They love to kick it with me. They would not want to play football with me again.
So all of their success after you.
No, they love to kick it with me, but playing football with me, I was a headache.
Yeah, I mean, it's listen, I would make the argument that some relationships are great having drinks after work. They're not great at work.
When they have success in the playoffs, I'm coming
Oh,
to
they're
both
out
of y'all.
now. They're out.
Coming to both of y'all.
They're out in an hour.
All right, welcome back to the show. Jason McIntyre is back, and we're joined now by Hall of Famer Ray Lewis. Let's move to the NFL, where quarterbacks reported to the Combine yesterday, which means a lot of people will be watching them very closely, including John Elway and the Denver Broncos, who have the 5th pick in the draft. Elway hasn't exactly struck QB gold in recent years, but he doesn't seem all that worried about it.
I think we're going to explore all options in free agency and see where that goes. And obviously, we got the 5th pick in the draft too, so that'll all play into it. So we'll continue to, to look at all the options out there when it comes to quarterback. Believe me, I'm not done swinging and missing. So look, misses don't bother me. We just got to figure out a way to get it right. So that's what we're working on.
Cowherd, do you trust Elway to land the right quarterback this offseason?
Yeah, he's a smart guy. I mean, he was really smart to dump Tebow. He was really smart to get Peyton Manning. Trevor Siemian, 7th round, can play. Brock Osweiler, Paxton Lynch. Man, this isn't science. The last 4 quarterbacks left in the NFL this year were Nick Foles, Blake Bortles, Case Keenum, and then Brady. It's not science here.
Brady was a late-round pick.
He was. But, I mean, listen, it's not baking where you follow directions. A lot of this stuff is cooking, where you're adding, you're ad-libbing, you go with instinct, you taste a little. Some guys deliver later, some guys develop later. You know, Ray was just too small to play in the league. Teddy Bruschi had bad measurables. Brady looked terrible with his shirt off. This is not an exact science. Drafting's hard.
Yeah, I agree. And I like his attitude. He said basically, look, we're going to keep taking swings at it. And if we miss, so what? Because, again, he realized everybody misses at that position at some point until you get it right. So I like the attitude. Trevor Siemian hasn't worked out, but late round
21
pick.
Starts, though.
Paxton Lynch hasn't worked out. He 1st round whiff or whatever. But I like the attitude of just keep swinging until you get it right. And look, it's a tough situation because Denver, ever since John Elway got there, has pretty much consistently been in the hunt for a Super Bowl. Ever since Elway got there as a player. Yeah. That's like 30 years ago or whatever. And so there's a lot of pressure about being the Broncos quarterback. Yeah. And so I got no problem.
I can't believe Colin's giving him credit, John Elway, for getting Peyton Manning. Oh, my God. One of the top 5 quarterbacks of all time. I can't believe he nailed that.
Broken neck
at any rate, the reason John Elway is not going to be successful here, he has a type. He's obsessed with tall guys, howitzer arm, big strapping dudes, okay? He was obsessed with Paxton Lynch. We know that's a flop. He's officially a bust. Brock Osweiler, obsessed with him. And now he's smitten with Josh Allen, the kid from Wyoming, okay, who's on his knees at midfield throwing the ball to hit the goalpost. Like, that matters. The guy's so inaccurate. Elway has to move off being a type guy. Like, people like certain cars, people like food, people like certain women. John Elway is obsessed with a big, strapping quarterback, and the league is changing. And John Elway needs to adapt, and I like his mentality to keep swinging for the fences. But until he does that, I don't think he's going to be successful.
So do we? I see we saying John Elway, and I know we on John Elway, but I got a bigger question, right? Trying to help John Elway out, right? Because we went through 18 quarterbacks.
In Baltimore.
Then Baltimore, trying to figure that out. But when was the last time the Dolphins had a franchise quarterback?
Okay.
Dan Marino.
When was the last time the Bills had a franchise quarterback?
And Kelly.
When the last time the Jets had a franchise quarterback?
Never.
When the last time the Jags had a franchise quarterback? Bears, Browns, Texans, Vikings, Chiefs, Cardinals, Bengals, Colts. When the last time we've had franchise quarterbacks?
It's hard.
It's hard.
Really?
It's hard.
And by the way,
and when Drew Brees, Brady, and Aaron Rodgers go, where are they coming from next?
Listen.
Who's your next guy?
Okay, Baltimore, I think it's fair to say Baltimore was considered a Ozzie Newsome. They did very well in the draft. You went 18 years without it. Look at this graph. This is New England. These aren't 7th-round picks. These are 1st and 2nd-round picks by Belichick. These guys barely got the shoulder pads on. They were busts. That's by the smartest team in the league. So I'm with Whitlock on this. I like the fact that Elway's come to terms with it and said, listen, man, I'm going to swing for the fence.
Absolutely.
What worries me is what the Giants GM, who doesn't have Elway's name in New York, is now saying, well, we're considering trading down. Are they doing that because they got out of fear because they got a little pushback on Eli, who's 37, and they're like, we're going to trade down because Barkley's not a risk, the running back. But Josh Rosen could be. So I'm with you. I'll take Elway's swing and a miss over this New York Giants
Let me
GM.
flip it on you. Okay, so you're giving Bill Belichick a pass for whiffing on those guys. Yeah. He's not one of the greatest quarterbacks of his time, which is what John Elway is. And I believe the reason Elway cannot see that, he's hit on other positions. Von Miller, Demaryius Thomas. He's nailed a bunch of draft picks because he's looking through the eyes of a quarterback drafting. But he can't look inward and find the quarterback for Denver. I mean, listen, I know he got Peyton Manning, but other than that, Colin, he has whiffed on everybody.
But who can, though?
Well, that's the
what
challenge.
I'm saying.
Like, he is one of the greatest ever,
It's harder than you think to find a franchise quarterback.
I agree with you. It is hard. I like Jason's point, though, is that John should have some expertise at this.
Even if you – okay,
but
wait.
He should. And I think what Jason's saying is Elway's looking for the next Elway rather than the next great quarterback.
Sometimes it's not necessarily the next great quarterback. The one thing I will somewhat agree with you with, maybe he needs to find the right guy to help him win. He has one of the most dominant defenses in football. Now, sometimes we look to go get quarterbacks that, are the franchise quarterback. When you have a defense that dominant, you don't need a superstar quarterback. You just need someone to manage the game. I learned that. I lived that the hard way. Yeah. Right? But I'm just simply saying, Elway has to figure that out.
Is Elway, to Jason's point, going for strong-armed home run hitters? Is he, instead of saying, Case Keenum at $18 million would win?
Well, I wouldn't say
McCarron.
Case Keenum, but Case Keenum. Again, I like your point. Elway had a rocket launcher arm. He likes quarterbacks with big arms and big
This is
builds.
his problem with, just think about this. If you're in the AFC and you're thinking about getting to a Super Bowl, there's one quarterback that you have to beat in the AFC Championship. Yeah. That's Tom Brady.
That's how hard it is.
That's how hard it is.
Hey, listen, Blake Bortles almost beat him, and Nick Foles just beat him. So, Rachel, come on, let's not give
We back to the if was a fifth now.
John Gruden was back in the spotlight yesterday. It's so good to have Gruden back, gearing up for his first draft as a head coach in about a decade, which could help explain his response to a question about his feelings on football analytics.
Man, I'm trying to throw the game back to 1998. Really, as a broadcaster, I went around and observed every team, asked a lot of questions, took a look at the facilities, how they're doing business. There's a stack of analytical data, or data, however you want to say that word, that people don't even know how to read it. It's one thing to have the data, or data. It's another thing to know how to read a damn thing. So I'm not going to rely on GPSs and all the modern technology. I will certainly have some people that are professional that can help me from that regard, but I still think doing things the old-fashioned way is a good way, and we're going to try to lean the needle that way a little bit.
All right, Whitlock, is Gruden's old-school approach concern you?
No, because I like what he's saying. And if you listen to him during the broadcasting Monday Night Football games, you could tell it's like, man, I don't like what a lot of these coaches are doing. I don't like the way the game's being played. And I think if I'm going to read all the way between the lines, he's like, man, Bill Belichick's killing these guys because he's the only guy that has a philosophy that he sticks to. He hasn't let everybody come in with some new way, I got this data that says you should do this or that. Bill Belichick has some core principles that he believes in and he sticks to. Gruden is saying, that's what I'm going to do as a head coach. We're going to take the information, but we're going to interpret it, and we're going to put our spin on it. We're the football people. I'm the football guy. We'll do it my way. I kind of like this attitude.
Everybody always bangs on old school. Let me give you a couple of old schools, Harvard and Yale. How's that new internet school doing? Yeah. Everybody's always banging on old school. They really are. But if you go look at most sports, and let's just take football, there's some old school principles that really work. You got to win in the trenches. You got to have pass rusher. Quarterback has got to be a quick thinking, good on his feet, good judgment. Listen, I like analytics. And in basketball with a three-point shot, they matter. But Warriors before KD were great three-point shooters, and they couldn't stop LeBron, the freight train. A lot of old school things work because all they are is trusted, time-worn methods. What's that book called? Everything you learned in kindergarten? Treat others like you'd like to be treated is old school. Let's not throw everything out that wasn't created on an internet university an hour ago.
Wow, Colin, that was brilliant. I actually like what you said about three-pointers. Let me take it a step further. Everybody in the NBA is copying three-pointers, right? Every single team. Rockets are shooting 50. At what point does it tip the other way? Hey, let's go back to low-post basketball. Let's go back to big guys and shift, because with analytics, Whitlock, every team in the NFL is heavy analytics now. It's time. You know me. I like to zig when everybody else is zagging. Everybody else is talking about, oh, I don't know about this internet. Let me start a blog. Let's see what happens. I go a different route. I like this Gruden. I'm going to go old school. I'm going to change it up a little bit, throw a little wrinkle at everybody. Ray, you're looking at me like I'm crazy. This is a good strategy by Gruden.
I actually like what you're saying. So I want you to go back. So think about the New England Patriots, right? Winning this franchise in the history of the game, right? Think about what you haven't seen. You haven't seen no outbursts from players. You haven't seen no selfies posted before games. There's a method to old school football. The only way, I truly believe this, and this is why what John Gruden was saying, what he saw on Monday nights. He saw the out-of-control players. Yeah. He saw the coaches letting these players run the sideline and run the teams and watch how they come out the pregame. In the locker rooms, he's watching guys with phones 3 minutes before you walk out. In meetings, oh, it's important that my family get in touch with me. Well, everybody else got a job. Phones ain't got to be in the meeting room. Old school is the only thing. Go through the history of all sports, and I can guarantee you the old school methods are the teams that's winning.
You know, here on the West Coast, the one Pac-12 school that goes old school, Stanford.
Yeah, David Shaw.
They are
Stanford.
Old
school football. If I got to get 1 yard, I'm going to run the power to get 1 yard.
So do you want to send that to Mike Tomlin and the Steelers? Because it sounded very pointed, Ray. That was excellent. I was like, geez, the Pittsburgh Steelers, right?
Whether it's very pointed or not, the point is, when you have that type of leadership from the top down, then there's certain things ain't going on, period, because the standard is set.
I'll go back to Gruden and what I think he sees in the Patriots. And again, Tom Brady's really talented, but he's really old school. And when you think about who John Gruden won with, Rich Gannon at quarterback and Brad Johnson, they weren't the most talented guys, but they had a big pair and played with some courage. And again, you can trust the analyst. Oh, this guy runs fast and he does this or that the right way, but does he have the heart for the game? And a lot of times when I would hear John Gruden commenting on Monday Night Football, it's like, again, in these little details you're talking about, does the guy have the phone with him? Because, again, there's all kinds of ways to show a heart for the game. Are you disciplined enough with yourself? That'll prove your heart, not just will you run in there and take on a blocker, things like there's a lot of ways to show heart.
John Gruden was excited to play with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and a lot of these 10 because you walk in there with men, and it's a purpose. Yeah. You ain't worrying about how many selfies I got, how many Twitter followers I got. You know what I'm saying? It's the culture, man. It's the culture. So if you bring that culture back to Oakland, I 100% tell you he'll turn that franchise.
The draft is coming up. The one thing I hear about Baker Mayfield through all the criticisms is, okay, he loves football. The one thing you hear about Darnold, oh yeah, football's number one. That is old school. Politics, not talking about contract.
Pot shot of Josh Rosen.
Welcome back, Ray Lewis, J-Mac. Here they are. Let's return to the National Football League, which is exactly what Johnny Manziel is trying to do after 2 full seasons away from the game. In fact, Manziel wants to play so badly, he said he's willing to do something unthinkable for a guy known for making money signs and autographing $100 bills, tweeting, quote, "I'll play again for free. It's not about the money, it's about getting back to doing what I miss and love." Whitlock, should NFL teams take a chance on him?
Yeah, I would throw him.
Oh, God.
I would throw him on my practice squad.
Y'all rough.
I would throw him on my practice squad and see if he's serious. See if he can stay sober, stay out of trouble. Man, there's a crisis at quarterback. This dude is still
This
young.
guy's a walking crisis.
I agree. for nothing, for little or no investment, throw him on your practice
these
squad.
Las Vegas stories?
Yeah.
Did you go online and read those?
I've been to Las Vegas.
No.
I got Las Vegas stories.
Okay. No.
I'm going to tell your mama, man. I'm serious.
Trust me, my mama knows I got Las Vegas.
Okay. He literally, the day before quarterbacking a game, was playing craps. And instead of getting on the last flight to Vegas, he said, I'm just going to get some Z's. I'll worry about that in the morning. You can't overcome that. That is in your DNA. That is who you are.
Colin, I know, and again, he's not as talented as some of these guys. I could tell stories today on NFL guys. Great player, ran an escort service the entire time he was.
Showed up on time for the game.
No, he showed up in time to make plays because he was that great of a player.
So Jason, why can't Johnny Football go to the Arena League for a year, rehab it, show everybody that he's going to show up on time?
He might have to do that.
Fine, go to the Arena League, go to Canada. There's this new other league starting by Tom Brady's agent. There are options. I don't want him anywhere near an NFL team. We talked about.
Why? I mean, but
he's not ready. Listen, the rehab process is admit your mistakes, then rehab yourself. He's got to still do that. He's got to go somewhere and prove he can show up on time and not catch a flight to Vegas. Let me say this: Tim Tebow created a circus. Colin Kaepernick was going to create a circus. Johnny Football shows up at your training camp.
Oh.
What is happening, Ray Lewis?
People
That
don't
is a
care
mess.
anymore about
No, that
Manziel.
is tearing the team apart. That is unnecessary media. That's people talking about you every single day.
You want him in the locker room?
No,
No
I tell you what, seriously. So the one thing about when you're introduced into the Pro Football Hall of Fame is what you find out very quickly when you start to see the people that's in their room. The one thing that they not only protected, but they honored was their reputation. I want you to go back and look at all Hall of Famers that's in that that's in that hall in Canton. You look at these young kids, and I'm telling you, the biggest mistake that most of them are making is they're killing their reputations. So you ask, would I want Johnny Manziel back? His reputation tells me, why would I want that in my locker room? If I'm trying to win football games, then yeah, I can give you one chance. Yeah, I can give you two chances. Yeah, I can give you three chances. But when football is secondary and everything else is before that, me as a leader, I don't need that in my locker room.
In this position, it's not like he's like a gunner on special teams, a weak side.
Right, he's the quarterback.
But Ray, he's only 25. You're willing to give him a chance down the road, just not right now, not this offseason.
You can't.
You're saying ever.
To do what? To do what? To my locker room. To do what?
Listen, first of all, in my view, he's been humbled. He's out here talking about it doesn't matter the money. That's the right mindset. To me, it's like a lot of people think I don't want Kaepernick back in the league. But if Kaepernick would ever humble himself, I definitely feel like somebody should give him a chance. If he's willing to prove himself, start over from scratch, every young person deserves a second, third, a 10th chance.
10 chances.
Yeah, and so if Johnny, I just don't think at this price, what's the hurt? I mean,
the hurt is you had money to play. Now, if you threw that away, the reason why you're saying playing for free, because you threw the opportunity away for playing for money.
He also promised he was going to wreck the league. He makes promises. I'll play for free. I'll wreck the league. I've heard his story.
I'm just saying, coaches, you got to think about what coaches are thinking about, guys. That's what I think sometimes when we be talking about this off-the-field stuff that's going on, coaches are thinking about winning. They're thinking about how can I keep my job?
Yes.
My goodness, and now you wanted me to bring other problems in that there's no locker room that's perfect. We see that from the top down, from the best teams.
He's a frat boy. Listen, you at 24 years old, Ray Lewis, stop drinking.
Absolutely.
Tom Brady doesn't drink. Okay, so we know Tony Gonzalez, another guy, literally clean, that's what it takes to be great. Now, I'm not saying you have to do that to
LT.
Okay, LT.
Well, I mean,
by the way,
I have a drink now, but I'm just saying there was a point to where you got serious about how deep the game was to you.
Are you committed or not?
Yeah.
He's not
and
committed.
LT's just chasing quarterbacks. He's not running a team, being the face of the franchise.
It's a different deal.
Those Vegas stories didn't worry you.
I want Manziel.
No, listen.
Well-
Do I know young people with money and the dumb things
You're right.
they'll do?
I want Manziel with a chance. I just think I don't know if it's in the NFL.
Yes.
That
Start in the CFL.
that's what I want.
Prove something for
I
a
want
year
you to
or two.
prove
And
first.
the CFL kind of said they didn't want him at some point. I thought so. Yeah, he may have to play in Vince McMahon's XFL.
There you
or
go.
Right.
Some semi-pro
Whatever
league
you
or
doing.
whatever. But again, I'm not for just saying like Johnny Manziel on some practice squad roster or a camp arm.
Those Vegas stories, you think I'm overplaying this?
No.
A lot of people go to Vegas. I lived there for 7 years. Dude, his Vegas stories are beyond like Vegas stories. You read those, they're like The Hangover 3. I mean, they're like movie bad.
Even Whitlock, even the practice
Colin, there
squad.
are guys. I just want.
No, I know where you're going
There's
with
some
that.
guys that couldn't function on the field unless they was high. Some very good players.
Yeah.
I promise I know where you're going with that.
Safety.
But the times have changed with a lot.
Yeah.
Social media runs our world now. So any little thing that gets out, you're dealing with that headache.
I mean, Ray, you talk about the Hall of Fame and what it takes to get there. Do you know what it takes to get to a practice squad? These
Man.
guys are working day and night, round the clock, just to crack the league. And we're going to give Johnny Manziel a handout?
I think young people,
I don't-
Gronk this week. I'm going to go to Hollywood and act. Oh, yeah, Hollywood needs Gronk. I'm going to go be a pro wrestler. Really? The Rock started with $7 in his pocket. Gronk's all sure. Oh, I was going to quit football and go be a... You know how hard it is to be a pro wrestler? They work 52 weeks a year.
He's playing this year. He's playing football.
Yeah, okay, that's what I'm saying. Johnny Manziel's like, oh, I'll go play for free. Get hit in the mouth twice. You ain't going to want to play for free. Football's hard. You got to be committed.
All right, welcome back. Time for last call. Let's move to Odell Beckham Jr., who is reportedly seeking a contract extension somewhere in the neighborhood of over $20 million a year, an idea which new Giants GM Dave Gettleman actually laughed at yesterday. Cowherd, would you pay Odell Beckham $20 million?
No, I'd pay very few people in the league, in a salary cap league, $20 million. He is a non-durable perimeter player. I wouldn't pay him $20 million.
I wonder what the receivers in the Super Bowl made in total. On both teams in total, I wonder what they made this year. I wonder if it was $20 million. I wouldn't pay Odell $15 million. All right, to Staples Center, where James Harden broke Wesley Johnson's ankles with what people were calling a vicious crossover last night. I thought he pushed him to the ground.
That's what I thought.
Then he stared down Johnson. Was this disrespectful?
I didn't love the stare, but why aren't people making such a big deal out of it?
Yeah, I thought he pushed him down, and, he kind of, it's something that's popular over social media.
It wasn't Iverson. Remember the Iverson MJ, where Michael Jordan was lost? That was just like a little bit of a push-off and a guy fell.
Chris Paul does that about every fifth game. He makes someone fall with all his dribbling and moves. You ever seen me play basketball?
I've never seen you play basketball. I just
Tremendous
learned something about you in Kansas City during the break. That was interesting. I could live without the basketball.